Hi again, Gregg, the News Tribune here at Seahawks headquarters in Renton. We just heard from Mike Macdonald for the first time as the 9th head coach in Seahawks history. John Schneider, the general manager who flew to Baltimore on Tuesday to fetch Macdonald, had waited 3 weeks to interview him until after the Ravens were out of the AFC playoffs. He said he wanted a guy that, quote, can change the marketplace. That's what he thinks Mike Macdonald does defensively in the NFL. He also called it a leap of faith, which is the same term that Macdonald used. Macdonald is 36. He's only been married for less than 3 years. He and his wife mostly rooted in the East Coast. And Macdonald said a leap of faith for him and his family to move out to the West Coast to a place they've never really settled before and take a job as a first-time head coach and leave what was the best team in the AFC this last regular season. What's it going to look like? Well, Mike Macdonald stated the obvious, that he is going to call the defensive plays. That's why they hired him to beat the 49ers, which Macdonald's Ravens just did, dominating San Francisco on its home field on Christmas night last month. But on offense, that's the big question. Who's going to be the offensive coordinator? Macdonald and John Schneider have already started that. He said that yesterday Macdonald said when he got into the building and had a reception just inside the front door here at Seahawks headquarters, after that, he and Schneider went right upstairs to their offices and began working on who the staff is going to be. Macdonald joked he doesn't even know where the indoor practice facility or the locker room is, which is right down the hall about 20 feet from where I'm standing right now. So they've already started the process about the offensive coordinator. Right? Interestingly, Macdonald said, we would think the conventional wisdom would be a first-time 36-year-old head coach, defensive-minded head coach would want a experienced veteran NFL play caller on offense to balance that out. He said that experience in calling NFL plays is not at the top of his list on who he's looking for to be the offensive play caller. He wants somebody that is going to be physical running the ball and taking big shots down the field. He was asked, Macdonald was, about what he views the quarterback situation is in Seattle, and he says, well, if I'm not mistaken, Geno Smith is at the Pro Bowl right now, which is true. He's at his second consecutive Pro Bowl. Smith is a injury replacement for the Pro Bowl games this week in Orlando. So he said he's going to build the offense around the quarterback. The question, of course, in Seattle is that quarterback turns 34 this year, and he's only under contract beyond the 2025 season. Macdonald's contract, in fact, is 4 years longer than Geno Smith's. So they have a future issue, not a present issue at quarterback that Macdonald didn't address today. He mentioned his coaching influences, and he said that Jim and John Harbaugh were two of the most authentic and competitive people he ever met. Of course, he was working with John Harbaugh for 10 years, the last 2 as a defensive coordinator for the Ravens. And before that, in 2020, he went to Michigan and was the defensive coordinator 2021 season for the University of Michigan. And Jim Harbaugh, that was the first defensive coordinator job that Mike Macdonald had ever gotten. He said he learned how authenticity with his players, sometimes giving them hard truth, but being fair and honest and direct. He learned that from the Harbaugh brothers, and he had glowing things to say about them. Not a whole lot of X's and O's talking about today because you could tell that Macdonald's mind was still racing and swimming a little bit, learning the entire environment, having his wife, Stephanie, right in front of him, Bert Cole, number 2 man behind team chair Dodie Allen, sitting right in front row, packed auditorium here. So Mike Macdonald's still getting his feet wet in Seattle and in the building itself. He did say about the legacy they're following Pete Carroll in the 14 years that Carroll had here. He said he's never met Carroll. He said he knows what kind of a personality, genuine personality Carroll is. He said Macdonald's going to come here with his own personality. He says, I have a sense of humor, I promise. He's been renowned to not have much of one, or at least a quirky one. But he said Macdonald said he's going to be himself. And having gone through this before, covering 2 different teams, the Oakland Raiders of the early 2000s with Bill Callahan as a first-time head coach, who ended up going to the Super Bowl that year, and Steve Sarkisian at the University of Washington, working with him in his first head coaching job about a decade or so ago. I can tell you the first-time head coach, there are going to be some bumps. And he is going to bump into some walls and learn a few things, especially early on in his first off season. But that's what his coaching staff in the NFL is for. That's what John Schneider is here for as his boss and general manager, who now has the ultimate authority of Seahawks football operations. No doubt this is a new era. This is an absolutely new era. The Seahawks went from having the oldest head coach in the NFL, 72-year-old Pete Carroll, to the youngest. Mike Macdonald is half of Pete Carroll's age, a first-time head coach that is going to change a lot, some of which could be some of the leading players, veteran players, big-name players on defense that have contract situations facing the Seahawks immediately. That's on my story that's online right at the News Tribune right now. All my coverage of today's press conference is at thenewstribune.com and on Twitter at GBellSeattle. Plenty more to come here in the coming weeks and months, including, of course, who they hire as their offensive coordinator. As always, thanks for watching.